Hello, hi everybody. I'm just sharing my screen now, so just bear with me a moment. Hopefully you can all see my presentation coming up now. Hello, so welcome and good evening. I'm Lucy Clark. I'm the Divisional Director of Sales for Trains and Cruises at Belmond, and I'm joined by Pascal Desrolles, who is the General Manager of the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express, also chief heckler of me, no doubt, this evening. So Pascal, do feel free to interject, correct me if I slip up anywhere.
I promise, Lucy, I will.
I know. I didn't really need to extend that invitation. So thank you very much for joining this evening. As I mentioned, I'm from Belmond. Hopefully you're familiar with that name. We are a fabulous collection of hotels, trains and cruises all around the world. And we're going to take you through just a few of our rail experiences this evening, starting, of course, with the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express, these glorious carriages that journey between London and Venice through the Alps, through some of Europe's most magnificent scenery. So just to sort of set the scene, you know, this is very much a chance to step back and travel on this legendary train and experience that golden era of travel when the journey was just as important as the destination, when you could sit back, have your breakfast brought to your cabin, enjoy a drink in the bar in the evening. So it really is like stepping into, I mean, I hate to use the word bubble because that has so many connotations at the moment, but it is like stepping into this sort of luxury bubble to be whisked away across Europe for one night. I like this slide. I put this in there because I felt this sort of encapsulates the glamour of the train, but also the sense of fun. You know, we don't take ourselves too seriously. You know, there's plenty of people let loose in the bar and have fun, but it is also a chance to really dress up and to, swish your long skirts through the train as you make your way to the dining car in the evening. So just the kind of headlines, as I mentioned, these are 17 vintage carriages. They all date from 1926 to 1929, so they are the real McCoy. We have a fabulous onboard team of chefs who produce the most incredible meals throughout your journey. The bar car that I touched upon already, and you see our makeup of cabins there. So at full capacity, we hold 176 to give you an idea. So we are a long train. And yes, you know, so there's plenty of potential mingling of passengers to go on there along your journey. So here is the map, just to give you a little idea of where we're going. We operate between March and November. Our classic route is Venice, Paris, London, London, Paris, Venice. So, you know, we offer the London connection, but you can also start your journey in Paris as well. The routes are different northbound to southbound. So typically people would do a one-night, one-way journey with us from London to Venice or Venice to London, and then either fly or take regular trains on the way back. Of course, you can do a return journey, and that's why I mentioned that they take different routes, because if you do choose to do a return, you'll have on the northbound journey, if my mouse works here, we come up here through Innsbruck and through the Dolomites, and on the southbound journey we take them up the Swiss pass, the Gotthard pass here down to Venice. So if you do it in both directions, you will get different scenery and different menus as well. Once per year we go all the way to Istanbul, which is a 5-night journey across Europe and is, you know, the trip that Agatha Christie made so famous. We limit the capacity to 100 on those journeys, and it really is such a feast. We alternate the nights on the train with nights in hotels, so we include tours and excursions and off-board meals and so on while you're there, and it's a total treat. I'm not going to talk too much about our other destinations because I'll come on to the news that Catherine hinted at later, a little bit more about those, but needless to say, we have several new trips coming up this season and in 2022. I wanted to mention the British Pullman. So we have a train here based in London, which is also vintage British carriages. And this operates the first or the last leg of your journey, depending which direction you're doing it. So if you're going from London to Venice, let's say, from London to Folkestone, we'll be on board the British Pullman, and we serve a fabulous brunch on board. On the way back, it operates that leg and offers afternoon tea. This train is also doing day trips throughout the year around the UK. So when it's not helping the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express complete its journey, it's offering journeys around, to Bath or to York. So, do have a look if you're looking for something closer to home later in the year once we're all allowed out again. So back on board the train, I've already touched on the dining, which is a real highlight. This is one of our beautiful restaurant cars. We have 3 altogether. This one is called, well, I was going to say it's called La Lique, Pascal, but it's not called La Lique. It's called Côte d'Azur. This is one of the wonderful quirks of the train. Everything has about 3 different names. Its real name is Côte d'Azur. However, we often refer to it affectionately as La Lique because it has these fabulous La Lique glass panels on board, and this often makes this the favourite dining car of many of our guests. So lunch and dinner are served in the restaurant cars, and particularly the dinner is a very glamorous affair and very much the climax of the journey. Breakfast is served in your cabin by your cabin steward. We also have a bar. We call it 3674, which is simply the serial code name of that particular carriage. And this is a real hub of activity. I mean, oh, how I long to be back in the bar car and mingling again in this way. This year, we will operate it as a restaurant car. So it will be set up as a restaurant car so we can allow for social distancing. But for those of you looking to travel in 2022 or beyond, you can expect more of the scene you see in front of you here. It closes when the last person goes to their cabin, doesn't it, Pascal? And we've tested it.
When the last person goes to bed, exactly. And if nobody goes to bed, like it does happen sometimes, we keep the bar open all night, all day.
This is very true, yes. So on to the cabins. As you can see, they have been beautifully restored, but they are exactly as they would have been if you were traveling in 1926. So they are sort of couchette style. You have your sofa during the day, which I'll show you then transforms into 2 little bunk beds. So you have to have the debate over who's going on the top bunk, and then each cabin has a little vanity unit that you can see there with wash basin and so on, so you can freshen up. The question I'm always asked, the loos are shared, so they are down the hall. So that means, Poirot style, you're going to put on your dressing gown at 3 in the morning, shuffle down the corridor. You may have someone coming the other way to use the bathroom. It's never an issue. There's plenty of bathrooms for everybody, but just it's important to know. Now, I highly recommend considering an upgrade to a cabin suite. Of course, I'm in sales, I would say that. However, genuinely what you're getting with a cabin suite is effectively 2 cabins. So all of our twin cabins interconnect. So you can take a pair of cabins. We don't charge double, very generously, but there is a supplement naturally. But that means you have twice the space. So you can both sleep at lower berth if you want. It means you have 2 of the vanity units as well for freshening up. And yes, it just means you've got a little bit more space during the day too.
You don't have to worry about the way the train is traveling, because remember, when we travel in Europe, we'll be going forward one way, we might be going forward, leaving Innsbruck the other way. So the great addition of the cabin suite is you never have to worry if you're facing forward or not, which you would have if you were just in a regular cabin. So for people that may be prone to motion sickness, it's just an additional advantage of the cabin suite.
Yeah, very good point. So you can see the suite set up in the evening as well. That's one of our lovely kimonos hanging up. So you'll have your own little kimono to wear during the stay, as well as, we have some lovely amenities in the bathroom too, in the vanity area. Now I have to talk about our new grand suite. So we introduced 3 of these a couple of years ago now, and this season we're going to have 3 new ones. These are the last word in luxury on the rails, basically. Absolutely fantastic. As you can see, they have double beds. And these 3 new ones we've named after some of the destinations on our schedule. So this first one is called Prague, and then it takes inspiration from the Czech Republic in its decor. As well as that, you have this dining dining area, as you can see, and these ones have ensuite bathroom facilities. So with showers, I'll show you a picture of one at the end of these slides, just to give you an idea. We include free flow champagne with these throughout your journey in the cabin. We'll include transfers at either end of the journey. You have a very dedicated butler service to take care of you throughout your stay. And they really are a real experience. It's very much harking back to those days, you know, when royals or you know, sort of famous people would have attached their own carriage to the back of the train, you know, and sort of been traveling in this kind of luxury.
And
Pascal, I'm sure you have something to add.
I've got two things I'd like to tell everyone. First of all, I'm extremely proud of this carriage, because this carriage in which we did the last 3 suites is the oldest carriage of the train. It's from 1926. But importantly as well, that car was actually stuck in the snowdrift back in 1929, 80 kilometers outside Istanbul. And that what gave Agatha Christie the idea to write a murder on a train stuck in the snow. So this carriage, apart from being our oldest, is as well our even more historical carriage, if I may say.
Yes, very true. A little shot of the bathrooms here, so you can see the shower, and we've had these beautiful hand-blown glass sinks as well. So they really are very special indeed. And now to our new routes, which we've touched upon a couple of times. So we've taken this kind of opportunity, this hiatus, if you like, in travel to actually, well, Pascal's had a bit of fun, you know, picking out some new cities and talking to the railways to try and negotiate some nice new journeys for us. So as of May this year, we will have a Florence departure and a Rome departure. So that's the same trip, but you can either board in Florence or Rome, and that will take you overnight to Paris. So that's a really nice combination. You can also board in Geneva. And then one of my favorites is the Venice-Amsterdam route, which also stops in Brussels. So there's an option to get off in Brussels, but, you know, sort of Venice to Amsterdam for me is, you know, well, it's a canal lover's paradise for a start. Fantastic cities to combine. And in terms of, you know, time on the train, you know, you get kind of a full 30-hour, I think more or less it works out as, journey on board the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express, you know, traversing Europe. So we go in both directions in June this year and then in April next year. So that's a really fun one to look out for as well. So we just, you know, that just remains me to say, you know, we look forward to seeing you on board, whether that's this season, next season, or, you know, into the future. This is the bucket list trip for me. It's a fabulous way to celebrate a special occasion and really great fun as well. So we look forward to seeing you on board. Now I'm going to move on to the Royal Scotsman, so something a little bit closer to home. And for those of you thinking of holidaying in the UK this year, then, you know, keep the Scotsman front of mind. This is quite a different experience, I would say. I feel the best way to describe this train is more like a kind of country house hotel on wheels. Very cozy, very convivial, much smaller than the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express. And, you know, arguably with scenery to match. I mean, the Swiss might have something to say about that, but, you know, in Scotland, you've got the most amazing Highland scenery to journey through on your tours around Scotland. As I mentioned, it's much smaller, so we only have 22 cabins. In a normal season, we hold a maximum of 40 people. This year, we will operate with 28 to allow for social distancing on board, so it's even more intimate and actually available for private charter. I just dropped that in there in case you've got 27 friends all in the same bubble. We're ready for you. So the map, just to show you how we work it here. So we do 2, 3 and 4 nights. And unlike the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express, which is obviously traveling from A to B, this is a touring train. So you will start and end in Edinburgh doing your tour through the Highlands. And then you get on and off the train during that tour. So you'll be doing various excursions. So, you know, I won't go into huge detail here. You can see on the map the kind of places we're visiting. But each trip will involve normally off-board experiences in the morning and in the afternoon. So to give you an idea of what those experiences are all about, we have a host on board the train, and he or she will sort of take you on these tours and experiences throughout the journey. So you might be visiting the Rothy Merchant Estate, you might be going to Mount Stewart. There are a huge range of sort of castle and cultural adventures, whiskey distilleries and so on. We also now offer a range of more active experiences. So often there'll be an option to go for a hike. You know, if you'd rather do that than visit the local castle, we'll always sort of have a more active option as well. So that's really good for walking off the amazing food you're going to be eating on board. The stargazing as well is just fabulous. You know, the night skies are really spectacular with so little light pollution, and we have partnered with an expert to take you out on stargazing excursions when weather permits. Always have to caveat that in Scotland. So to give you a little idea of the cabins, we only have 22, as I said. That includes some single cabins, and we do have some a few double cabins with double beds. The majority, however, are twins, and so they're configured in a kind of L shape. So they're not bunk beds here. You're both sleeping at sort of ground floor level, and one bed's going across the train and one's going kind of vertically, if you like. The food on board, again, Scotland has some fantastic fresh produce, and we take full advantage of that. You know, there's some venison I had on board this train, which I can still remember now. You know, the ingredients are incredibly fresh and prepared from our tiny little kitchen on board, you know, and you can really poke your nose in and see the chefs at work, as you can on all of our trains. The bar car is where, you know, all the sort of socialising takes place and our evening entertainment. You can see at the back there's a little open air platform, so you can go and feel the wind in your hair and really experience that scenery as you're driving through. So this is really, as I mentioned, you know, obviously this year it may be a little bit different because we will have social distancing on board, so there'll be fewer people, but nevertheless it's a chance to meet people from all around the world in this very intimate, cosy setting. We do have a spa on board as well, of course, what everyone needs. So we have 2 spa cabins, so we will offer massages and treatments throughout the journey too. Now for something completely different, Southeast Asia. So I'm just going, how am I doing for time? Do shout, Wexas people, if I'm going on too long. So I'm on to my last train, the Eastern and Oriental Express. So this is our train from Singapore to Bangkok. So like I said, something completely different. And this is a real opportunity to experience Singapore, Malaysia and Thailand over a 2 or 3 night journey on board these magnificent carriages. Oh, just let you take that in for a moment, because I'm just imagining being there right now as I look at the icy conditions outside. So we have 41 cabins altogether, so we take a maximum of 82 guests. Again, this season will be slightly fewer than that. We have our observation car that you've just seen, which is attached to a bar, and then also a second bar that's in the centre of the train as well. And let me just talk you through a little bit the journey. So as I mentioned, it's a 2 or 3 night journey. So Singapore to Bangkok northbound is 2 nights. Bangkok to Singapore, we added an extra night. Really, that's a logistical reason to make sure that we do the best scenery in the daylight as you're traveling through. So you get that 3rd night. We do once a year a signature journey, a 6-night voyages of Southeast Asia, where we do that same route, but at a much slower pace and with nights off board in hotels as well, a little like we do in Istanbul. And we're operating over our winter months, September to April. So the train is, well, it's not been operating this year so far anyway, but then we'd have a rest period over our summer months, and then we start again in September this year. So on this journey of 2 or 3 nights, you get off the train twice. So we do 2 stops in Kanchanaburi in Thailand, and then in Kuala Kangsar in Malaysia. And there you have options of different activities you can do. So Kanchanaburi, some of you may know, is famous for the bridge over the River Kwai and the sort of World War II history connected to that. So we have the option of doing a very classical tour. We do it on a boat. We go out onto the river, and we have a local guide who talks us through the history. But if you want to be more active, we do a cycle journey through the paddy fields. We do a cooking class. And then likewise in Kuala Kangsar, we offer a couple of different options, visiting a Malay village, or we can take you off on a hill trek and with a local naturalist guide, which is really interesting as well. So there's two different options. So you have plenty of chance to get out and sort of uncover the destinations that you're journeying through. The food, I love. I mean, Pascal's here, so I have to be careful. But I really love the food on the Pascal. We actually have a French chef, but he's been living in Asia for many years. So he cooks fabulous Asian cuisine. But also, we often do he can't resist doing a nice steak and dauphinoise potatoes option if you feel the need. So just to show you then the piano bar in the center of the train, this is really the social hub, and we have live music in here every evening. We also have the saloon space where we offer optional activities. We often have a masseuse who comes on board, for example, here. And then the observation car, this is connected to the outdoor area that you've seen, the platform at the back. So this is a second bar where you can get your gin and tonic and take it out onto the open air section of the carriage here, which is a really great addition to this train. Just to give you a couple of shots of cabins. So here we do have the bunk bed configuration in some of the cabins, but the majority look like this, our state cabins. They have a chair and a sofa during the day, and then that converts into twin beds in the evening. This is our presidential cabin, but it's very much the same setup, just a little bit larger than the state cabins. So that is pretty much it. So I hope the questions have been coming in, and yes, we're here to answer them. So thank you very much.
Great, Lucy. Thank you so much for that. I didn't realize you were doing the Eastern Orient Express as well. Clearly I should read my briefing notes better. But wow, what an amazing choice of trains to pick through. I can see there are a few questions coming in, but just a couple of points I wanted to highlight about the train. You can also do the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express to and from Verona. So for any of you who are opera lovers on this call, that is a beautiful itinerary to do, and we can combine that with a stay in Verona, either before or after the train with the opera. Also very popular with a lot of Wexas clients. I can see we've got some clients on the call this evening who typically do cruises with us. We can also combine Venice Simplon-Orient-Express with a cruise on certain departure dates. So if that's something you're interested in, that's another option. And there's also a beautiful itinerary that combines it with a stay in the Italian lakes as well. So there are many options and combinations to choose from. So Lucy, a question I've got for you. So am I right in thinking that the only, if you like, cabin suites on the train that have the ensuite bathroom, that's the Grand Suites that you showed us?
Yes, that's right. So, well, firstly, on the Eastern and Oriental Express and the Royal Scotsman, all of the cabins have bathrooms. I should have said that. So the only train where we don't have that is the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express, and that is because these are carriages from the 1920s, exactly as they were then. And within that train, you're quite right, then the only cabins that have ensuite bathrooms are those Grand Suites, and we have 6 of those.
Okay, and then Lucy, the next question is, does the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express operate all year round?
No, March to November, but I'm sure Pascal would love to extend the season.
We will extend, trust me, we will extend, we'll get to the ski.
Yeah, we want to do a ski trip, and Christmas on the train would be amazing as well, but we're not quite there yet. Yeah, we're working on it, but March to November at the moment.
Great. And what about the other trains, Lucy? The Royal Scotsman.
Scotsman is April to October. So when you might be a bit luckier with the weather up in Scotland, and then the Eastern Oriental Express is, as I mentioned, I think September to April. So we don't operate between May and August. Okay,
so very sensibly avoiding monsoon season in Asia. Lovely. Right, I'm just busy. Questions are coming in. They're busy sending them to me by phone, so I'm just having a little look here. Can you tell us a bit more about the Istanbul trip on the Venice?
Yes, with pleasure. It's an incredible journey. So we do that at the end of August, beginning of September. And it's a 5-night journey, as I mentioned, and it's from Paris to Istanbul. So Paris is the boarding point. And then throughout that journey, you do alternate nights in hotels. So you have one night on a train, and then one night in a hotel, one night on the train, one night in a hotel, and so on. As I think I mentioned, we limit the capacity to 100. So it's a smaller numbers, and that means that everyone dines together as well, because normally on the trip we would have 2 sittings on a regular trip, whereas this one everyone dines at the same time. It really is it's hard to put into words, Istanbul. I don't know, Pascal, you may well interject, I'm sure you have many words, but every time you arrive or depart from a station, for example, there is a marching band to greet you. I mean, by the time I'd done this journey, I was kind of expecting a marching band every time I arrived somewhere. From the smallest station, in Sanaia in Romania, where we get off and go and visit some of the fantastic castles there, and there's a band waiting, from when you arrive in Budapest. It really is a sense of occasion. You feel like you're celebrities crossing Europe. It's really incredible. And you meet people from all over the world, and over the course of 5 nights, you really have time to get to know your fellow passengers as well. So it becomes a really, we have sort of lasting friendships made on that journey. Pascal, would you like to add anything? Because I know it's close to your heart.
Yeah, I would just like to mention a few things, especially when you go Paris to Istanbul, you have a sense of a journey and you can feel what they felt back in the days. Because as we travel toward Istanbul, the scenery really changed, the country really changed. And when we get into Romania, Bulgaria, when we go to Varna and we see that train station in Varna that was built originally purely for the train, because there wasn't even train tracks to go all the way to Istanbul back then. For the first couple of years, you had to take a steamship from Varna, and they built the port, and then eventually they got the tracks. It's very, very magical. And I have to say that 5 nights give you the time to enjoy every specific country and attention and experience.
Great, thank you, Pascal. Now, a great question here, which was certainly one I know I had in my mind before I did my first trip on the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express, but probably, Lucy, if you could answer it with relation to all your trains, are there any luggage restrictions?
Well, in essence, no, because if you have lots of luggage, we'll put that in storage for you, which is what we do. I mean, you've seen on the, it's necessary because of the size of the cabins on any train that we have to limit the amount of luggage you take into your cabin. So I would always recommend, let's say the Venice Simplon-Orient-Express, for example, if you have a kind of a wheelie suitcase, hand luggage size that you could take on an aeroplane, that kind of thing, and a suit carrier is perfect to take into the cabin. But then, of course, you may have more luggage than that you want, for the rest of your trip in Italy. So in that case, we put that luggage is stored separately. So there's no restriction as such, but there's a restriction to what you bring into your cabin, if you know what I mean. So yes, you will need to just take what you need for that portion of your holiday, and then we store the rest and we transport the rest of you for you to your hotel in Venice or whichever route you're doing. And that's the same for all of them. Does that answer it?
Yeah, and is it a similar concept, Lucy? Say if you were on the E&O in Asia, is that sort of
yes, exactly,
only and a bigger suitcase stored and transported?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. It depends. There is a little bit with the cabins on the E&O do offer a little bit more space depending on the cabin type you've got. But even so, particularly because people tend to be on a 2-week trip around Asia, I generally recommend that they bring a smaller bag for the train element, and then we will put their larger suitcase in storage for them.
Great, thank you, Lucy. But having been on the train myself, one of the things I would definitely say is, it's a fabulous opportunity to dress up. So Lucy wasn't joking when she says, if you're dithering around between the shorter evening dress or the longer evening dress, go the whole hog, pack the pearls, pack the long evening dress, pack your husband's black tie. You absolutely won't feel out of place. And there's also a really nice sense of people being dressed up during the daytime. In fact, Pascal, I think I'm right in thinking gentlemen have to wear a tie in the dining room. Is that in the dining carts? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Minimum is tie and jacket. And then obviously for dinner time, we really encourage everybody to dress up. It's part of the atmosphere, it's part of the theater. You're on a theater stage, and it's as fun for you as it is for the rest of the guests around you. And it makes for great photos.
Great.
Yes,
Thanks,
that's
Pascal.
true.
And then Lucy, just a word or two, any sort of dress code on the other trains?
No, but thank you for asking. So no, it's much more relaxed dress code on both of the other trains. On the Scotsman, we do have a sort of formal evening, we call it, where people with kilts like to get their kilts out. And, you know, everyone dresses up, and it always ends up with dancing the Gay Gordons on a platform in the middle of nowhere somewhere in Scotland, which is really good fun. But the rest of the time, it's fairly relaxed. On the E&O, we used to have a stricter dress code actually, but we really relaxed it too. People do tend to, and even on the Scotsman, they tend to change for dinner. Because I think there is a sense of, you know, people wanting to sort of dress up. It's part of the occasion, but certainly, no, it's much more relaxed on the other trains. It's only Pascal who's the taskmaster on the tux.
Great. Well, thank you, Lucy. Thank